Somewhere, something incredible is waiting to be known. With Pixar's 2004 film, The Incredibles, that certainly was the case. The Incredibles, even with the current superhero craze, holds up incredibly well, and I would say that it's even better than a lot of what we're getting currently, in terms of quality and substance. This is because The Incredibles is so much more than a superhero movie. It's a spy movie, and also a family movie. The way it looks at the domestic life of a family, addressing things like the midlife crisis, the woes of raising children, as well as unfulfilling work and a career, all wrap up on this film in a tight little bow. The Incredibles follows Mr. Incredible in a world of superheroes that eventually turns their backs on the supers after a string of lawsuits turns them into more of a pain than the government believes that they are worth. The animation is interesting because honestly, for a very long time, I hated the look of the movie. I don't know what it was, but everything that took place in the city was super visually boring to me, and I don't know whether or not it was the budget to make the island stuff look amazing, or if it was a stylistic choice to show how it feels to live in a world without any supers. But it just feels boring when you're in that area of the movie. Other than that, the movement, visual gags, and all of the more superpowery things actually look phenomenal. Syndrome's stasis glove is super cool looking and is a really cool concept. The Omnidroids are also visually pretty basic, but the way that they can move and function with the Doc Ock arms is really cool, and it's a really good idea of how they implemented that into the animation. And then you have powers like Elastigirl and Frozone creating these large ice waves or stretching into a boat or across long distances. It's all very cool and interesting visually. As for technical achievements, Pixar brought realistic crowds as well as some more realistic water physics that were built on from Finding Nemo. Another interesting advancement was realistic stylized teeth, where they took photos of volunteers from around the studio and based many of the teeth in the characters off of those people's teeth. The stylized character designs really do bring it together. Where this movie really shines is the characters. If Finding Nemo's cast were as memorable as this, then I think that movie would be so much better. One fan favorite standout, of course, is Edna Mode. While not being a main character, she shows exactly how character design shines in the film and how important it is to selling the animation. You can see this in the design of all the characters. Everyone has a unique silhouette where you can easily identify them. More with the voices though, everyone sells their character and really plays it up a lot. And did you know that Edna is played by the director Brad Bird? I thought that was a little cool thing to mention. They all have their own separate arc, the most compelling obviously being Bob's. He becomes so infatuated with living out his past from the glory days, ultimately forgets his promise to Helen and to be there for his family. Bob is a very selfish protagonist in the beginning, and that normally spells a character that is unlikable and just generally a bad person to be around. But his journey back to understanding that he isn't alone anymore, that he has a team and a family to work with, and that he needs them and his kids just as much as he would need to be there for the world. Coming from Bob, it seems Helen was going to be just this jealous and nagging wife, at least the way that they frame her in the beginning of the movie. However, she becomes so much more than that, going to save Bob and being in general a kick-ass mother. She's the responsible one trying to protect her family and takes the other extreme from Bob as to completely hide her powers until she had no other option. Then there's obviously Syndrome, who pulls off this twist villain early in the movie. Pretty well actually. I don't have many gripes with it. He makes it believable as to why he would hate other supers and want to make anyone not super. Oh, the music in this film, it's so good. If I hadn't mentioned that yet, I'm sorry. The film is scored by Michael Giacchino, who also did another one of my favorite movies, Rogue One, from Star Wars, where he draws from John Williams inspirationally, and he hits quite on the mark if I do say so myself. Brad Bird wanted to give the sound and feel of the retro futuristic aesthetic of The Incredibles, and to achieve this, Giacchino recorded all of the music on analog tapes rather than digitally. The orchestral soundtrack won multiple awards after being released, and it definitely deserves every single one of them. The film does something that mixes these jazzy elements with the sound of old spy films The training sequence song is like the Pixar song now. You hear it all the time. Just from California Adventure to Disney World to online movie reviews to trying to analyze animated films for children. Also, the main theme, infinitely better than the Avengers or Mission Impossible theme. Fight me, don't care, it's true. The general motif in the movie where the main theme also pops up in the different songs just brings another layer of depth to the score I don't think we've seen from Pixar before. Definitely not in Nemo. What makes The Incredibles different though? Honestly, it's probably Brad Bird. Not only that I mentioned earlier that he was the voice of Edna Mode, but he was also the sole writer and director for this film. That was a first for Pixar, having the most writers going up to 6 or 7 writers all the way down to 3, but never just one sole vision. Brad Bird's vision comes through clearly here, and I think it just works really, really well. Brad Bird previously worked at Disney animating for Fox and the Hound and the Black Cauldron, but he was fired because he said that the creators were uninventive and unoriginal. So that's the kind of guy we're dealing with. After being fired from Disney though, he went on to work in television animation until he got his first break with The Iron Giant, one of the best animated films of all time. Unfortunately, it did bomb at the box office at the time, but it's a great movie and you should go watch it if you haven't yet. He brought his pitch for The Incredibles later to Pixar, which was a hard sell because his last movie just completely bombed. He brought this film here and it was supposed to be a family film looking at himself. So he had trouble with his home life and his family and his marriage. So drawing on his own life, he pitched the idea that he had been sitting on for years about this super family, which I think comes through really well. The story feels more personal than any Pixar movie that we've seen prior to this. Another first for Pixar is that it's a human story. The story of Helen and Bob and their straining marriage is supposed to be a mirror of the midlife crisis of real life people, as well as Brad Bird's own experience in his own life. And at the basis, it is Pixar's first story that is only about humans. Not bugs, not monsters, not fish, or even toys. These characters are human through and through. This affects the allegorical aspects of whereas other movies' meanings are masked behind the distance that we're given between these inhuman characters and representations of ourselves. Brad Bird uses caricature to exaggerate the pools of everyday life for these heroes. Fathers are supposed to be strong and powerful. Mothers are pulled in every direction. Teenagers are defensive and nervous, and kids are these little balls of energy, and babies, you don't really know what the hell you're getting with those things. Syndrome is literally the idea of hero syndrome or the hero complex, which may not be a diagnosable disorder yet, but it's a psychological phenomenon where people intentionally put themselves into dangerous situations to feel more like a hero, which is exactly what he does. So to wrap up, A113 can be seen in a few places. It's a room number in Syndrome's lair, which is heard here.
Wing, room A113.
Mr. Incredible is also held on level A1 in cell 13 and is also seen in the hangar. The Pizza Planet truck is actually a little harder this time. Some people believe it's right here in the final battle with Frozone and Dash all the way in the background in like a split frame, but it has never actually been confirmed if it was featured in the film. Brad Bird literally said that he wasn't concerned about putting the Pizza Planet truck in the movie, only that he was concerned about finishing the movie. So I'm going to do something different here, and I'm gonna place this above Toy Story 2. This film is by far my favorite in the Pixar canon up until this point. And it's just set apart. It feels like a real movie that's made for adults that kids just so happen to enjoy as well. So goes Incredibles, Toy Story 2, I believe it's Toy Story, oh no, it's Monsters Inc., and then it's Toy Story, then it's Finding Nemo, then it's A Bug's Life. So that's what we have here now. See you guys next time. Alright guys, thank you for watching. I am so happy to have finished this one, and I'll see you guys on the next film. It's of course going to be Cars. I don't know if I'm excited about that or not, but we'll see what happens here. Thank you, like, comment, and subscribe. And remember, watch my other videos if you haven't yet, please. I do appreciate it. I am very close to 100, and I just want to thank you all for 100 subs almost. And goodbye.